the first week of May, they take an AP exam. And that is the same AP exam that all students are taking on that date across the entire nation and even internationally for some students that are taking these AP classes outside of the US. And that exam, basically what they score on it, is going to determine whether or not they get college credit for the class. Now, students all the time can take AP exams and not pass them, but still pass the class and get their high school credit for the class. The exam only determines whether or not they get the college credit for the class. So basically, the exam is on a scale of 1 to 5. Okay, so your student can score 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Anything out of a 3 or higher is considered passing. And then every school, every college, is going to determine the credit based on their credit policy, okay, their AP credit policy. So for example, if we look at a class like AP English Language, if your student were to take that class and they were to pass with a 3 or higher, when you go to USF looks at that as English Comp 1. And if you were to score a 4 or higher, you get English Comp 1 and 2 for that class. Now, when you look at literature, USF also translates it the same exact way. But when you go over to UF, they do not translate it the same way. The literature class is translated as a lit class. So every college, to say the least, looks at your AP score differently and gives you different college credits based on that. So that might be something that you want to look up in advance. And if that you have a particular school in mind down the line that you really want to consider or shoot for, then we can sit down and look at their AP credit policy and see what that looks like for you. We'll move on to the next one. So AP classes that we do offer on campus. So we have Human Geography, which is for our 9th graders, World History and United States History, which are for our World History is for 10th graders, United States History is for 11th. English Literature and Language are for our 11th and 12th graders, and those go back and forth every other year. So this year we're offering English Language, and next year we'll offer English Literature. So your student will have the opportunity to take both. Then we have Psychology, which is offered at their senior year, and then Calculus, which usually students hit their senior year, basically following a math progression. So those are the AP classes that we offer on campus currently. We are looking at offering 2 new AP classes for next year. The first one, I'm not going to get too much into them. Mrs. Shaka is going to go a little bit more into them. The first one is AP Pre-Calculus, and basically it won't be much more difficult than our current Pre-Calculus class, which is honors and pretty much already at a college level. But this is a new class that College Board is introducing, and so Mrs. Shaka is going to talk a little bit more about what that class will look like. And then the other class is AP Seminar, and I've got a lot of questions about AP Seminar. She's going to dive into that one a little bit deeper. Okay? All right, so first we're going to have Mrs. Williamson come up. She's going to talk about AP Human Geography. Now this is a class, again, that's offered for all of our 9th graders.
Hi, I'm Bethany Williamson, and like she said, AP Human Geography is for 9th grade. This is our first year that we're offering this class, so if you haven't heard about it before, that's why. If you are an 8th grader or a parent to an 8th grader, I'd really like for you to have this flyer if you didn't get it coming in. But hopefully it'll be helpful to you because it tells you what the purpose of the course is, and it's the goal. The goal is for students to become more geoliterate, more engaged in contemporary global issues, and more informed about multicultural viewpoints. It has a vast array of things that we're hitting. We hit a lot of economic, political, social, and environmental issues. I think when we hear geography, we just think physical geography and, okay, just memorizing a bunch of countries or learning different bodies of water and rivers and mountains and valleys. That's not what this class is. We do hit some physical geography, but it's more cultural and focuses on globalization and how things are impacted in our environment by humans, and how the environment impacts humans, but how humans impact the environment and how those relationships work. On the flyer, it has different topics that we cover. These are our 7 units. Okay, the first one is thinking geographically, population and migration, culture, political geography, agriculture, urban geography, development, and industrialization. So it covers a lot of things. It's really interesting. I am loving teaching this class. I have a really great group of students. What our class looks like, typically, I will have the students read for homework a section of the unit, and then I lecture on it, but I also like to show lots of videos because the content is very new. Because it's a freshman level class, a lot of the freshmen don't have some of that background knowledge, so I try to tie in videos to help them better understand the content. We practice it. They will be quizzed on their vocabulary, which is a lot of terms that they have to learn. They're quizzed on that, and they are quizzed on the countries for each continent, and it's not all at once, it's spread throughout the year. And then we have a unit test where half of the test is multiple choice, and then the other half of the test is called free response questions, where they're having to give pretty much a paragraph, a written paragraph for each question. And then I also give another activity or project as a test grade for each unit. This is interesting and fun class. It is challenging though, especially for 8th graders going into 9th grade. We already know that's a transition going into high school, right? But this is a college level class, so it will stretch and challenge your student, but I wanna encourage you, it's worth it. As a parent, I would want my kid to take this class because it's not just the content that they're learning that would make them a very well-rounded citizen of realizing how things work and are connected together, but really the skills that they are learning in this course. It's higher level critical thinking where they're having to analyze things, and it's only gonna give them a really good foundation to help them forward, whether it's them applying those skills in other classes or future AP classes. So I would really encourage you to think about taking this. It's a great class. No problem.
All right, so next we're going to have Mrs. Gray come on up. She is our AP World History and AP US History. So again, this is for our 10th and 11th graders. And so she's going to tell you a little bit about her class, and then one of her students is going to come up and share.
All right, good afternoon. I am Heather Gray, and I teach AP US History and AP World History. AP World History is a class that you will be taking in 10th grade, whereas AP US is in 11th grade. Both of these, again, are college level courses. And if you think that history is all about just memorizing dates and regurgitating facts, then that's not what I'm going to teach you. In fact, in AP History, we're going to learn how things are interconnected. Did you know that it's thanks to the Chinese that America was founded? In fact, it is thanks to the Chinese, because the Chinese are the ones who created printing blocks. As a result of the printing blocks, they made their way across the Silk Roads to Europe. Once they got to Europe, a man by the name of Gutenberg was able to improve upon those printing blocks and print the Bible. As a result of the Bible being printed in the vernacular of German, we have a Bible that leads to the Protestant Reformation. As a result of the Protestant Reformation, we have a break in the church that leads to persecution. And from persecution, we get the fact that you had people flee that persecution, and so too do we have Marco Polo's journeys being printed that encouraged a certain man, certain Italian by the name of, there you go, my AP students, Christopher Columbus, who subsequently sailed across the ocean blue in 1492, and founded America. So it's all thanks to the Chinese that we are even here today. That's the kind of stuff you're going to learn in AP World and AP US History. It really is understanding how things are connected. You are going to think differently because it's not about rote memorization. It is about applying these facts and understanding why they happened. What could happen as a result? Cause and effect, continuity and change. These are all words that you will learn to love in the AP histories. And the fact of the matter is that it becomes such a good way of retraining your brain how to learn that it prepares you. It prepares you for higher level classes, whether it be here at, as you go up towards graduation, and it also prepares you for college. Because when you get to college, it's not all about memorization, it's about thinking. And thinking for yourself, being able to put things together and not have somebody else think for you. So it does challenge you, it does stretch you, and I will be along for the ride every moment of the day as we go through this. And on top of that, I've had the privilege of, over the last 4 or 5 years, of being what we call an AP reader, which means in the summer, when y'all are having fun on your summer break, this year I am being flown out to Kansas City, Missouri, where they are going to grade all these wonderful essays that you get to learn how to write. And I get to sit there for about 8 days and grade the same essay over and over and over again. Last year, I think I graded about 800 DBQs, document-based questions. Now, the benefit to that is the fact that when you come sit in my class and we talk about the writing, we learn how to write, I know how to teach you to write the way AP will grade it so that you have the best chance of getting the grade you want to get. But please keep in mind, this is not all about getting college credit. There is a good chance that even if you pass the AP test, depending on your school, you may not get that college credit. And that is okay, because what you gain is the fact that you've got a higher level class that has taught you how to study, has taught you how to prepare for your future, and will enable you to be way ahead of kids that didn't take AP in college. So keep in mind that not everybody ends up with the AP college credit, but they still get the benefit behind having taken it and learning those ways of studying and learning. In fact, I've got a couple students right now that know, based upon where they want to go, it won't take the AP credit at all. And that's okay. So I'm going to bring up Emma Kretzer, first of all. She is one of my current AP World students, and give her about 30 seconds to say how great of a class it is, how much she loves me as a teacher, and that y'all should do it. Right, Emma?
Yes. Yes, that's what I'm saying. I think the biggest thing for me is I would have wanted to know, like, going in, I was always really good at a normal history class, so going in how to actually study for a history class is totally new. And the homework load, going in is just like, oh, it would be that bad. It's terrible. Gonna be honest. But it helps because the EMSCOs that she has that you have to take the notes on and stuff are just really good at showing how everything fits. And that's a big thing with AP World History is like actually knowing how it all fits into the bigger picture, and that's what you're learning in the class. Like the class itself, you have to pay attention when she teaches. Don't try to wing it because you can't. I definitely would recommend taking it because it pushes your mind, you have to think more, and you're getting prepared for college, which is huge. and you think it's far away, and then you're sitting in your third quarter of AP World History going, oh my word, it's in like 2 years. So it's important to know how to properly study, and Ms. Gray definitely is always there to help, and she's really good. Can I have the money for saying that now?
I'll pay you tomorrow. Alrighty. And for AP US, I have Cameron Bradley, who has now wrapping up her second year of AP classes with me. So this is Cameron.
Thank you. So yes, as Ms. Grace said, this is my second year in an AP history course, and I will not lie to you, it's not without difficulty or rigor. You do have to put in some effort. However, I will say it's been extremely rewarding, specifically noticing the improvement in my standardized testing scores. Unlike a normal history or English class, AP really involves a much more writing intensive course, but that really prepares you, like I said, for the standardized testing, as it tests your critical thinking ability and your analysis skills. And with Ms. Gray along the way, she really helps you and pushes you to do your best. Also bear in mind that there are multiple great resources that will assist you throughout your time in an AP class, so you're never left alone or just to, you're always going to be there, helped along the way by Ms. Gray. So I would really encourage it.
Awesome. All right, so, I left my clicker. Next, we're going to bring up Miss Austin. So she teaches our AP English Literature and Language class, so comes 11th and 12th grade. That's when you would have the ability to take these two classes. And they replace your junior and senior English if you would like to take these two.
I met a traveler from an antique land who said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read which yet survive. Stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear, my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings, look on my works, ye mighty in despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. That sonnet is Ozymandias by Percy Shelley. And as you may have noticed or may not have noticed, the theme of that poem is that the things that you built are meaningless because they will be crushed. And eventually, you'll be left with nothing but the sand stretching far away. But this poem has not ceased to exist, has it? And the ideas that Percy Shelley imbued into the lines of that poem, they continue to exist. The statue, crushed and crumbled, blowing away in the wind. But the ideas and the words, they live on. When you write in AP Lit or AP Lang, one of the things I'm constantly harping on my students about is stay in the present tense, stay in the present tense. Because when you write about literature, those characters aren't dead. It doesn't matter that it was written 200 years ago. It lives, it breathes, it grows. And that is the power of the written word. And it's that power that we try to harness in AP Lit and AP Lang. We try, we strive. Because nothing is ever really done, right? The papers just do. It could always be better. It's never quite perfect. And that is actually totally okay. If Percy Shelley were alive today, he would probably be looking at that poem that I just recited that sounded so perfect and thinking to himself, I should have not put that comma right there. I should have switched this out here. I could have used some alliteration right there. Because it's not going to be perfect, and that's actually totally okay. One of the things that you're probably wondering is, what the heck is the difference between lit and lang? Pretty sure those are all words. That's true, you're correct. In AP literature, we try to focus on literary, meritable works, works of fiction, novels, drama, short stories, poems, stuff like that. And we try to get to the heart of the figurative language, how that fits into the theme, how those themes reflect the world that created those works of literature. So in this case, for example, you might have to talk about how Percy Shelley was alive during the 19th century, and there was a lot of mummy unwrapping at the time. People would have little parties and be like, let's see if there's a mummy inside. So it's not that surprising that he wrote a poem that was based in ancient Egypt. So we might talk about the connection between what's happening in the world and what's happening in the poem, and then try to interpret that in a deeper way. Like the desert, for example, it's not just that's surrounding Egypt. A desert is a metaphysical place, a place of broken promises, for example. So those are the kinds of little details that we look at. That's AP Lit. AP Lang is looking at other things, technical things, rhetorical things. So we focus a lot on nonfiction, speeches, legal documents, and we try to really get into the nuts and bolts and try to understand how those little adjustments are actually imbued with meaning. So to use my poem for an example, anybody hear any rhyme scheme? Did I make all kinds of cute pauses and there was like a little song in your head? Could you hear that? No, you couldn't. You know why? Because the lines have been enjammed due to the punctuation that was used. So I didn't pause at the end of the lines. You couldn't hear the rhyme. If that poem were up here, you would see that there actually is a perfect little sonnet rhyme scheme, but you can't hear it because of the rhetorical choices that Percy Shelley made. So see, those things aren't meaningless. They're not just like toss-arounds. Poets don't just sit around puking out poetry. Well, some of them do, but they don't get famous. The famous ones know what they're doing, and then it's our job to look at those details and interpret them and try to gather out meaning. And if we're doing a really good job, we end up being left with truth at the bottom of all of it. Because even though the works that we're studying aren't necessarily Christian texts, if they're revealing truth, isn't that truth pushing us towards Christ? How could it do anything else? So we look for connections like that, and that's really what AP Lit and AP Lang are all about. If you pass the test, cute. I mean, that's awesome, right? Good for you. I want you to. We're all trying. That's the goal. The goal is always the pass. But if it doesn't happen, that's okay, because you're left with being able to find the truth. Also, you'll be able to recognize all the literary references in your favorite TV shows, and that's always great. It's like a little Easter egg hunt where you're like, I get it. I know what foamy means. It's awesome. So now that I've blathered on about that for a little while and impressed you with my ability to memorize old poems, I'd like to bring up Brittany. She's gone through both of these classes, so she's able to kind of talk about her just general experiences and maybe some advice to folks who might be thinking about taking the courses.
So I just want to say that I feel like most people struggle to decide on whether to take a AP class or not because they think maybe I won't be able to keep an A on the class. But I have to say, when I was in my sophomore year, I was struggling to keep my A's on a regular English class. So, but I said I should just do it. I should just try for it, and it's a challenge for myself. University is also a challenge, so I might as well just do it in high school. So I did it, and I really don't struggle to keep an A on her class. She's an amazing teacher. She does an awesome job of just keeping everyone stimulated and, you know, interested in her class, the works, and I just fell in love with literature in general. It's something awesome that to be able to say I have worked and progressed so much thanks to being in her class. I've been able to write better. I passed the AP test, which I kind of didn't think I could do, so it's just a matter of you deciding on whether or not you want to be better for yourself. Not keeping an A or a B, that's something of course you want to do, but do you want to be better? Do you want to progress as a person? And this is little steps that you take to be better in every step. And they all the AP classes correlate, so the more you take, the better you're going to do in the next one. My AP Lit correlate with my AP US, as I was able to analyze and respond quicker and faster and more efficiently. And then on my AP Psychology class, I was able to just understand better. And time management too. You're better able to say, okay, let me take an hour of my day to do this, do all my classes, and then just take the rest of the day off. You're better, so yeah.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, next we're going to call up Mrs. Haddad, the legend here at SCA with AP Calc, and so she's going to talk a little bit about this. Now, this class requires that you take pre-calculus with us on campus, so that would be the step before you get to AP Calc.
They always do this to me. They put me after Miss Austin. Who wants to follow the entertainer? Not me. It seems like as a freshman or a sophomore or even a junior in high school, that you have everything all planned out. And so when someone comes to you and says, you know, I think you ought to get into honors math, you go, oh, well, I'm not doing anything that has to do with honors math, so I don't need to do that. And then when somebody says to you, well, you know, you have done really well in the honors math. We think you ought to move forward and go into AP Calculus. Now, there are two classes of AP Calculus. There is an AB class and there is a BC. The AB class is what we have here. The difference between the two courses is that the material that's covered in BC goes a little bit farther than what the AB does. And we have the AB, and it's a handful for what we have here. For most people, that's a real stretch, is to take an AB calculus course. And it has two parts. It has, in the first semester, we learn what a derivative is. Then we spend a long time learning how to get derivatives. And then the hard part comes, what is it used for? How do you apply it? What are the uses of a derivative? And there are many. In the second semester, we learn what an integral is. And then we spend a long time learning how to take integrals in different ways. Different problems involve different methods in order to get those integrals. And then we learn how to apply them. There are problems that are practical applications of this. All right, now, I don't know, have you seen any of the Morgan & Morgan commercials where they talk about, I want more, I want more, I want more. Miss Moore is always wanting more. You know, she's sitting at the table and the guy's putting the cheese on there. You know, I want more, and she gets a sundae. She wants more sprinkles, and yeah. And most of us feel that way about anything we buy. If you buy something, you want as much as possible for your money, except education. When you buy education and you pay for it, you want as little as possible. Why? There are people all over the world who want education and can't get it. And you're sitting here in a school that has an AP program. We are really seeking to give you more. You know, and as far as it goes about what you think you're going to do with your life, let me tell you something. You don't have any idea what you're going to do with your life. You have no idea what God wants to do with your life, 9 chances out of 10. As a 72-year-old, thinking back to how I felt when I was in high school, I didn't know anything. I remember when I was probably, 35, that I came home to visit my husband's family. And I remember walking into the dining room, and sitting at the dining room table was my sister-in-law, Steve's younger sister. She was probably 30. She was sitting at the table, and she was doing her homework because she had decided that she wanted to become a nurse. She'd kind of floundered around, hadn't gone to college, just was kind of lost, and then suddenly she decided that nursing was what she wanted to do. I looked over her shoulder, and I saw Algebra 1, and Algebra 2 that I was teaching to freshmen and sophomores in my high school classes. And I said, Stephanie, what is this? She goes, it's really hard. I wonder how many young girls who would have been great nurses never made it because they wouldn't do the math. I wonder. And so if you're sitting here and saying, I really don't need to take calculus, some people, the only reason they took it was because they wanted to paint their name on my ceiling. And that's still true this year. Somebody wants to put their name on the ceiling. And if you go up into the middle school, up above the cafeteria, it's not middle school anymore, all of those tiles are still up on the ceiling. They would paint their name for each year. This was calculus in 2011, this was in 2020, and so on. And you know, everybody thinks, well, that's pretty cool. I think I want to do that. And maybe that was the only reason. But let me tell you, there are so many doors that are smashed in your face closed if you can't do math. Oh my goodness. Go to a graduation. This person's going to go and become an electrical engineer. This person's going to go and become a mechanical engineer. This person's going to go into tech work, computer teching. You got to do math. You got to do math. I've spent my whole life trying to make people see that you need to do math. If nothing else, learn to do your high school math so that when your kids are struggling with algebra, you can be the coolest parent in the whole school because you can help them with their homework instead of making them go to Mathasium or the computer or wherever else they're going to go. Don't cut life short by saying, I know where I'm going and I don't need that. Don't be a person who pays for education and doesn't get more than just the basics. America is falling behind educationally other countries in the world. And this room right here is our hope that we're not going to continue to fall behind. It is hard. It does take time. It does. But let me say, getting an A, as has already been said, is not your goal. Your goal is to learn as much as you possibly can so that you will always be ready when God says, I want you to go there, I want you to go there, I want you to go there. That's what's important. And when colleges look at your transcripts, if they can see that you decided that your senior year was a time to just relax, don't you think they're smart enough that they can see that by the classes that you took? Oh yeah, I took readiness for college mathematics. Everybody knows what that is. Everybody knows. You get an A in that class. Your GPA is way up here. And then there's somebody who really understands what these courses involve. And they see this kid over here who took AP Calculus and maybe got a B. Oh, forbid. God forbid that we should get a B. Okay? How much did this kid learn as compared to that? How much more did this one get than that one? Okay? I think we sell ourselves short, and I think we sell the Lord short when we worry about, will I have an A? I think we sell ourselves short when we say, oh man, well, I have to spend all my time doing homework. Now, I don't want you to think, because I got up here and said that it's hard and that it takes time, that it's impossible. Mathematics is a growing thing. You learn this, Then you build on top of it and you do this, and then you build on top of that and you do this, and you learn to think, and you learn to analyze problems, and you learn to try something, and if it doesn't work, try something else. I think so often that we try something once, and if it doesn't work, we just back away and say, I can't do it. No, maybe try something different. And I have even sometimes been very surprised when students come in with a solution to a problem, and it was nothing that I taught them. They thought differently than me, but they got to the solution. Oh, that's so exciting. That's just like, whoa, that's my day. Yeah. And it's just as hard to take calculus after pre-calculus as it is to take algebra 2 after algebra 1. Why? Because they build. And you have the skills, and you just go a little farther. Emma, stop that. She's got a look on her face like, I'm not sure I believe you. It's true. It's true. And so I just want you to understand that all of these teachers who have been up here have been here because we want to give you more. And we are dying to see you do more and be more. And all the time, the Lord's getting the glory. Now, I have a person who's been in my class for several years here. And so Frances is going to come, and she's going to tell you a little bit about the workload and about what it's like to be in that class. Come on, dear. Just speak about that one.
So I'll be honest, I was one of those students that joined AP Calc to paint my name on the ceiling. I never thought, I was like, I'm not a big fan of math, but to be honest, I could see how, like Miss Haddad said, how we are using stuff that we've learned in the past, and you can see how it builds up. So that's interesting to me. I will say, not that the workload is too much. It is enough to get your brain moving. It's enough that you can handle it. And I feel like if I can do it, then all of you guys can do it, because I'm not a big fan of homework. But I'm making it through. And you can really see how Miss Haddad's class, like, you're using your brain. It's not just in a class sitting there not doing anything. Like, you actually are using your brain, which is good. And I will say that don't be afraid of getting those B's. A's, yay, A's are nice looking and stuff like that, but you can't be afraid to get a B. So I learned that this year, because I always got A's, and I got a B last quarter, but that was for AP Psych. But that's a different story. And I will say, don't be afraid to ask questions, because if you ask your teacher, Miss Haddad, for sure she will show you the way to the solution. And yeah, so don't be afraid to ask questions. Work hard. You'll make it. I'm making it through. You'll make it through.
Thanks, Frances. All right. So I also teach an AP class this is my third year doing it, and I do AP psychology. And a lot of students are like, oh, I don't know about psychology, what's really the benefit? And to be honest, I ask them, I'm like, so what do you want to do in the future? Oh, I want to go to the medical field, or I want to become an engineer, or, whatever that might be. And I say, okay, you can work with people? Yeah, okay, well, then psychology is probably a good field for you to understand, because, it's not just about learning about, the way we think and the behavior that we have and the emotions that we have, but it's also about understanding other people. And I think a lot of the time our students get to explore themselves a lot throughout this class, which I enjoy doing. We do personality tests. We talk about development. We talk about the biology of the brain. And we're going to move into social psych here soon. We just talked about pathology and the diagnoses in psych and therapy and all of that. And I really try to approach it from a biblical point of view. And that's the one thing is your kid can go and take psychology in a public school at USF, and that's great, but a lot of those professors are very liberal. We want to make sure that we're able to give them a biblical foundation of what God says about psychology, what he says about our brain and the way that we think and the way that we feel, our emotions, and what we should do with that, and what he says about others and how we should treat them. And so we really focus on that. So kind of how my class is designed is usually I will lecture, we'll do some videos, sometimes a worksheet in class, and then the students go home and read on what we covered in class that day. So usually about 2 to 3, sometimes 4 pages. And then the next day they have a reading quiz, okay? So 10 questions. They are multiple choice. They used to be fill in the blank, which was a lot harder. So it's important that they read. Now, a lot of times they can get by on what I lectured if they listened really well and took notes, but every so often I'll slide in one of those reading questions that's specifically from the text. But for the most part, that's how my class is designed. We do multiple choice and an essay question for our tests. And then I have some projects throughout. So right now our students are kind of just starting out their research projects, and they have to design research. They have to do a literature review on previous research in that area. So they got to all pick areas of psychology that's interesting to them. So sleep or PTSD or adoption, all really cool ideas that they were able to, some of them it related to their personal lives or they knew somebody, which was really awesome. And others just had interest in that field. And then we do fun projects like a brain coloring book where they have to draw a brain and color it, and it's kind of fun. And then the Sock Baby project, which is the infamous project where the kids have to carry around socks, which are babies. They're stuffed for 2 weeks, and so that's fun. They name them, and I make sure they don't throw them like footballs. They do get deducted points, and I have teacher spies on campus that watch them, and parents have to babysit them, so it's kind of a fun moment for them to experience parenting and to talk about development. So we do some of those fun things in AP Psych. So I am going to call Frances one more time. She's also in my AP Psych class. We did want to give you a perspective, and so is Brittany as well. For some of these students who do take multiple AP classes, it's doable. It's totally doable. She's also in AP Calc, which is a very homework-heavy class. And so being able to balance the two is an important thing. So just give us like 1 minute on how that is for you.
I'm back again, yay. Okay. So for AP Psych is a very interesting class. All the stuff that we learn about is like very intriguing. Like you want to learn more. Yes, the Sock Baby project, very fun time. For 2 weeks we had to hold our sock babies, and it was funny when little kids came up to me and asked, "Oh, what's that for?" I'm like, "You'll understand in high school if you take AP Psych." The reading quizzes. In the beginning, it was a little hard because I wasn't sure what to expect from the quizzes. But after a while, you get the hang of it. You focus on the reading. I don't know how to say that. Like you get more into the reading, and then you're able to understand what you're reading and stuff. And I will say, for me, I'm a slow reader, so it does take me a little bit of time, but I like to finish the reading so I can understand what we're learning. And I don't know what else to say. It's a really good class. I suggest you take AP Psych once you get to that time. And yeah, sorry.
Awesome. Thanks, Frances. No, you're great. Thank you for speaking again. All right, so let's move on a little bit as we wrap up. So why choose AP? So what's the benefit to you? You've heard about all the hard work and some of the great things that you'll learn and how interesting it might be, but why? What's the benefit for you in stretching yourself a little bit? So College Board owns AP, and so they posted up some of the benefits of AP that they've done research on. One of the main ones being time management and study skills. You've heard some of our students talk about how they've had to read differently. They have to take notes differently. They have to think differently. And so it's important for them to start to get those skills early on. They don't have to be perfect skills, but even at the freshman level, learning those and being exposed to those early on is important. Critical thinking skills, again, learning to think deeper, not just reading a question, but understanding the context behind the question. When I look at our AP Literature and Language students, when they take my quizzes and my tests, guess what they're doing? They're crossing out words, they're underlining words, they're crossing out answers, they're doing all these things. So if they don't know the answer, they're going to find it within the question. It kind of feels like cheating, but it's not, because they are learning how to critically think about every single question. So that's one of the benefits. It sends a signal to colleges, okay? 85% of selective colleges report that a student's AP experience favorably impacts their admission decision. I was able to talk to an admissions rep the other day at a university, and I said, AP or dual enrollment, which student would you prefer? And they're like, AP by far. And they said the reason being is they're more college ready, okay? They're more college ready, and so that says something about you. College readiness, students who receive a 2 on their AP exams are ready for college work. So what was the passing score that I mentioned? A 3. So even if you're not passing the exam, research is showing that you're still ready for college level work. So it's okay that you don't pass the exam at the end. It's about the benefit that you're learning from the class, the things that you're getting out of that class are all helpful. Listen, on your transcripts too, we talked about getting a B. An admissions officer would rather see a B or a C in an AP class than an A in a standard class. That tells me that you didn't challenge yourself. If you're getting all A's in standard classes, then you're not challenging yourself. You probably need to take a step up, okay? Save time and money. Students who take AP courses are much more likely to complete a college degree on time. I mean, all my parents can say, get an amen. Don't you want your kids to get out of college and start making money so you can retire, right? They can take care of you, yeah. And you don't want them to spend pay an extra year in tuition in college, okay? Because Bright Futures runs out eventually, okay? So you want to make sure that you get your kid through on time. So research has shown that AP students are more likely to finish on time. The average student now finishes college in 6 years and not 4. And they changed their major 5 times. So you can tell that now students are taking longer to get through. The GPA boost, so just kind of a black and white thing. An A in a AP class counts as a 5.0, a B a 4.0. So even if they are getting a B, that's still a good GPA factor. So that is one of the things some of our students are really looking to move up there on the list, okay, in their class rank, and this definitely helps that. Also, higher GPAs, you qualify for more scholarships. So definitely another thing to be grateful for. All right, so I'm going to invite Mrs. Shock up. She's going to kind of wrap us up here with AP Pre-Calc and AP Seminar.
Thank you. Before I do that, I just want to share mostly with you students. So when I was in high school, which admittedly was quite a long time ago, but I was not in a school situation where I had AP as an option, okay? And so I thought I was doing pretty well. Like I made good grades and all of that, but I had not experienced the higher level thinking we're talking about here. And I really had second thoughts about admitting this with Miss Haddad sitting here. But I was also that senior who earned 2 credits my senior year, okay? So a little bit different than here. We make our seniors do more, okay? But I had, I think, English and something else and worked a job, which felt great because I was earning money, but I really was not engaging my brain my senior year. Freshman year of college was a really rude awakening to me. When you talk about reading quizzes, I can put myself back to my 18-year-old self sitting in world history in college with a 3x5 card in front of me because we took reading quizzes on a 3x5 card back then, that the professor read the questions to us, okay? So you also had to really be listening, and they were worth 20 points apiece. So you can feel my panic. Some of you could feel how I felt. And there were a lot of tears shed and a lot of time spent. And my grades my freshman year of college were the worst out of my whole 4 years there. I did much better after that because I learned to study. Freshman year, I had to put in the time, put in the work. That history class, there was no Miss Gray with 20 students in the classroom to ask questions. I believe there was probably about 300 students in the classroom, right? So there was no one-on-one coaching from a professor. So if I had it to do again, right, I would have loved to have learned all that and got past all that in high school. I would have been a far different student starting out in college. So if you're nervous, if you're on the fence, I really love how the theme that has come out of this conversation has been, yes, we want the A's, and yes, we want the passing scores on the AP. And trust me, we all want that for you too. But we also want you to become the student that challenging yourself with AP classes will cause you to become. And so I hope you hear that today. I just wanted to say that for a moment. So as we're challenging you to do more and be more and go after more, that's something we always challenge ourselves as a school with, right? So we are also always looking at ways we can grow our high school program, add things that we think will be beneficial to our students. We are always doing research. Mrs. Gomez spends a lot of time looking at what colleges are looking for because we want you to be able to get into the schools that you would like to be able to get into. And we also look at what our PSATs that we give every year tell us. So you guys take those PSATs in October, you forget about them. We've been spending a lot of time looking at our student performance and what do they tell us. And then when we see areas of strength and weakness on those, we look at what changes can we make accordingly. So with that in mind, we have the goal of potentially adding both AP Pre-Calculus and AP Seminar to our AP offerings for the 2023-2024 school year. I'm saying that as a goal, okay, because this is the season of the year where we are hiring teachers and figuring out, what staff availability we have and all of that for next year. But we have set this as a goal for ourselves. So I just want to quickly mention what these two classes are like. And what we're going to do is, Ms. Gomez will talk, I think, in a minute about course requests. Will be going out. You'll have the opportunity to select these on course requests, and that will help us gauge if we have enough student interest to continue to move forward with the process of offering these classes. AP Pre-Calculus is a brand new class that College Board is offering for the first time in the 2023-2024 school year. They have done a lot of research about how they could help students become more successful in college-level math. Okay, and as Ms. Haddad mentioned, challenging yourself to continue on in math. It can be really tempting to take, quote-unquote, easier math classes those last couple of years of school. They all looked at both students going into the STEM fields and what they need for success in college, and also students going into non-STEM fields, but often still have to take some type of math class, a college algebra or something like that. And so AP Pre-Calculus is designed to be accessible for all students, assuming that they have been successful in Algebra 2. For us, we would say you've been successful in Algebra 2 honors. You would be eligible for AP Pre-Calculus. And if you are moving towards a STEM field, your path would be to take the AP Pre-Calculus and then AP Calculus. But for students who may not be moving that direction, AP Pre-Calculus often will be received by colleges and universities as your college math that you would need to take. It would count for that if you pass the exam. So that can be really helpful to you. So we have sent out a link, I think, in the invitation you received to this meeting to the AP Pre-Calculus course description. I also have a great flyer. I didn't print them out because they're like 8 or 9 pages, but I'd be happy to email it to you if anybody would like to see that, or a link to all the College Board has to share. But we are excited about this opportunity as well. And then AP Seminar, okay, is a class that 10th graders could take. I imagine we probably could have 11th graders in it next year as well if you were interested. Okay, it is a class all designed around the topics of research, collaboration, communication, and critical thinking, okay? And when we look at our PSAT data and look at some things that are growth areas for our students, those are all themes that emerge for us, okay? Places that we could do just a little bit better and push our students a little bit better. You heard some of these students, I know Brittany said some of those words when she talked about critical thinking, and some of the other students mentioned those things as skills. And so AP Seminar is an answer to some of those things, okay? AP Seminar involves reviewing and analyzing articles, studies, and other texts, viewing issues from multiple perspectives, and also crafting arguments that are not just based on opinion, okay? Like, that Chick-fil-A is better, but what's the research? What's the data on those things, okay? And so we are going to teach you to do that. You probably heard some of those themes as you heard Miss Austin talking, as you heard Miss Gray talking. Definitely in psychology, they are looking at some of those things. And so AP Seminar, considering taking it as a sophomore or junior, can have you really better prepared for those other AP classes. Would you go to the next? slide. One of the other reasons for offering AP Seminar is another goal that we have set for ourselves as our SCA high school program is to become a school that offers what is called the AP Capstone Diploma. This is something that if students earn can really set them apart to colleges to get into the colleges and programs of their choice. For a student to earn an AP Capstone Diploma, they have to take 2 classes, AP Seminar and AP Research, and pass those successfully, and then also pass 4 more AP exams throughout their high school career. So we've already taken steps to achieve this goal by adding human geography last year for our 9th graders so that students have an opportunity right out the gate in high school to experience, if not to pass a class, to gain skills that can make that passing more accessible as they move into their sophomore year. This year, we're looking at, if we have enough interest in moving this direction, to taking the next step towards achieving this goal, which is to offer the AP Seminar class, and you can see what some of our progressive steps would be to then offer the AP Research down the road. And so this is not something we currently offer at this time, but you're going to be hearing more about this in days to come. And so if that looks attractive to you, or in your conversations with Mrs. Gomez about your college goals, that is something that would set you apart, then you are definitely a candidate to go ahead and try out this AP Seminar class. I think that covers everything for me. I think what we're going to do is, we want to respect your time, and it's just about 3 o'clock, so we understand some of you may need to slip out for other obligations. We're going to take a moment and see if anybody has any general questions that you think would benefit everyone in the room, real quick. And then if you have questions about specific classes, we're going to ask our AP teachers to hang out for 10 minutes or so, so that you can approach them and ask the questions that you have. And as you were leaving, make sure we have a little treat for you to thank you for your time there in the lobby. We just have to ask you to please not open the cookies in the church because they have a service here tonight, and we have agreed to respect that by not having food in here. So that being said, any general questions that we can answer for you all?
I'm not sure how to word this, but what if AP Seminar is added, like what are the main general core categories would that class fall under? Like, would that be like English, elective, etc.?
That is such a great question. It would be considered an elective class at this time. It can take a couple of tactics because it's so research-based. It can be an English-based class, that type of research, or science-based. So again, as we move into what that could look like, who we have available to teach it, we'll have more details that'll come out about that. But at this time, it would be an elective. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Is there a cost involved for the AP?
Yes, the current AP fee is $125 for this school year. And just so you know, that mainly covers for us the cost of your AP testing and a little bit more to cover the cost of some additional materials and stuff for the class. It doesn't fully, we do include a lot of what AP costs in your regular tuition, but there is a $90 exam fee, so you can see right away where a good chunk of that goes towards. Yes, ma'am. So the question is, for everyone, you can also, so there is something called a CLEP test. So some people who do not pass the AP exam will take a related CLEP test and earn they don't have to take the class for that reason. Right, so if they accept it, it does count towards your total credits for college graduation, correct?
Yes. It works similar to the CLEP. So if a student weren't to pass their AP exam, get a 3 or higher, or whatever their school was requiring. Some schools do require a 4 or 5. Then yes, they could try to CLEP, and I mean, majority of students, as long as it's still fresh in their brain, they might be able to pass that CLEP test, and it would count for whatever credits and however that school translates the CLEP test. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess my question wasn't more about the CLEP test itself, but just that AP passing it does count as credit hours to the college.
It does, but every school has a different credit policy. So you would, and all that is posted up on College Board's website, and you can search that. So you can go like USF or UCF, different schools in the area, and look at how they translate AP test scores into credits. Yeah. Anyone else?
All right, I'm going to let Ms. Gomez just close us out with a word about course requests, and then you'll be free to go or ask other specific questions that you all have.
So course requests should be finishing or should be opening here in the next week or two. And so if your student is interested in taking AP seminar, AP pre-calc, it is important that you request that for us so that we know how many students are interested in taking those classes. Pre-calc next year will most likely only be offered as an AP class. In a sense, there won't be a higher difficulty. They would just have the opportunity to get that college credit by taking the test at the end of the year. So in a sense, the class isn't shifting as much. It's going to be more of the fact that we're just changing the name and letting them take the exam, which might give them that college pre-calculus credit. So that is the main difference for that. But if your student, AP seminar should show up under electives because like she said, it is an elective class. And then we'll work hard to make sure we get that in their schedule as long as we have, I guess, hires and how that goes, and also if we have enough student interest. So we're really hoping to get that up off the ground. If your student is really interested in going to a competitive school, an elite school, like a Notre Dame or a Yale or a Duke, AP capstone diploma is the way to go. It's the way for them to stand out, and only a couple other private schools in the area offer it. So we really want to be able to offer that in the future and help our students stand out. But again, if you have any other questions, please feel free to hang out.
Yeah, students, I realize there is one more thing I should add in honor of full transparency. Almost all of these AP classes do have a summer work component, okay? So I want to be fair. I realize we probably should have said that. I don't know that the teachers mentioned it. AP Psychology does not have summer work, and I am not sure yet what that would look like for AP Pre-Calculus or AP Seminar, but all of the others do have some summer work. I don't think any of it is unreasonable, especially given that we always have it posted on our website by June 1st, if not earlier. And so if you pace it out through the summer, it's very doable, but I did realize we should be transparent about that and make sure you guys know that would be a component. All right, I'm going to close us in prayer, and then feel free to hang out with any other questions that you have. Father God, I thank you for these students. I thank you for them giving an hour of their time after school today, and for the parents who came and made time in their schedules to hear about this program, Lord. And we love all of these students, Lord, and when they walk across the stage at graduation, we want all of the doors to be open for them to walk fully through what purpose you have for their life. And I know for many of them that involves challenging themselves academically, and so I pray that this answered their questions and that they will be able to make good decisions about what that looks like for them in the future. In your name we pray. Amen.